Hey everybody, I'm doing a special Cowboys versus Redskins video. I normally just do Ravens stuff, but since I live in the area for area with big Cowboys fans, big Redskins fans, I figure I go ahead and do a live video today. And it won't be too long, but just to go over what I think is going to happen in a football game and what's been leading up to this day and what it means for the NFC East. So get right to it. Um, I was checking out the rankings for both teams just to see where they stand going into this game, and for the most part, these teams are very similar to each other. So I'm going to share this real quick, so I think you guys can see it. Um, you can see what I'm seeing. Um, so if you can see this right now, the Redskins total defense ranking 13th, and you see the Cowboys. Like if you look right down the list, it's pretty similar. So I'm going to, I guess, get to what I think will definitely be the keys for this game. So you look at the passing offense for the Redskins; it's sixth in the NFL compared to the Cowboys' passing defense was 18th. While 18th isn't bad, it's in the teens, so it's not terrible. But that's been the one thing that's been lacking for the Cowboys this season. Um, the games that they have lost this year, they've given up over 37, averaged of 37 points um, losing. When they have lost their games, they've averaged 37 points. So when it comes to the Redskins, um, and it has to get. But the Ravens, I mean, the Redskins don't have a really good um, running game at this point. So you would have to think that they're going to probably try to pass the ball in this game. And the big key for the Redskins in this game is definitely to go ahead and definitely try to get the ball to Terrell Pryor. Now, Terrell Pryor has not played well. I think he's gotten a few targets, but he hasn't capitalized on targets that he has been catching. He's been brought in here to be a number one wide receiver next to Josh Doxson and Jameson Crowder, but he hasn't stepped up. He hasn't really. He had one, I think, big catch against the Kansas City Chiefs a few weeks ago, but since then he hasn't really been a consistent player for the Redskins, and I think that's what's really going to be a key for this game. Now, the Reds Cowboys secondary is not great. They did get rid of a lot of their veteran cornerbacks in the off season. Barry Church, I think Claiborne was gone, Brandon Carr, and so I think the only one guy that's left is I think his name is Jalen Smith. The if I'm not mistaken, I think that cornerback, rookie cornerback they had there. So he's been mainly trying to be the number one guy for them, and he's going to go through some growing pains this season. So it's going to be tough, especially for a rivalry game of this magnitude. It'll be the first one he's played on the pro level, this level. So especially going into FedEx Field and seeing how things are going there, it's definitely going to be. I think since Dak and Ezekiel Elliott have done it before. I think they swept the Redskins last season. They know how to beat this team, but I think going into this week, defense that they had last season. Now on the Redskins side, I'll check it out here. Um, they will have Josh Norman back for this game. It seems like unless something happens between now and kickoff, it looks like Josh Norman will finally make his return for this game. I think you've all been watching and seen the commercials. I think on Samsung for the Dennis Bryant, Josh Norman commercials, them talking trash about each other, saying this guy is slow and this one is that. So they've been playing it up their rivalry and their, I guess, their rivalry for it with each other um, since the beginning of the season, building up to these rivalry games for them. So it was expected that Josh Norman was going to make sure that he played in this game. Pretty sure there's some money on the line too as well for Samsung. Maybe a commercial comes out afterwards about who wins this game, and they kind of play off of that and made a set of commercials based on how the outcome of this game goes when they go into the second game. So now um, that's going to be the best matchup I think to watch in this game is for the Redskins defense and the Cowboys offense. That I think is going to be the total complete difference in this game. You got Ezekiel Elliott, so he knows he's playing this week. He didn't have to really worry about. He didn't have to worry about knowing if he was going to play this week. With the judge already, I think, handing it down this past week, saying, we're not going to hear it. He's playing this Sunday, so he was able to practice all week, and the Cowboys knowing all week that he will be able to play. So they're going to put in some plays, knowing he'll be able to be there Sunday. So I think they're going to have a full game plan for Zeke going into this game. I think a lot of the reason why he hasn't been able to play as good for those few weeks is because he was in limbo, trying to figure out if he was going to play that Sunday or not. And the team was too. It's really hard to game plan when you're a top players, you're not knowing if he's going to play that week because of the suspension stuff. So they were able to now, I think, all week develop a game plan for Zeke and how he's going to best be he can in this game. So I think they're going to have a solid game plan for him going into this. Now, the Redskins defense, as we all know, Jonathan Allen's going to be out for the season. They're their number one pick. I think he's been hurt most of the season, so he hasn't been able to make too much of an impact. But I think the middle of that line is definitely going to take, and it's definitely going to. They're going to have to step up for this game. I don't think they have the talent to stop Ezekiel Elliott, but this is one of those games where guys take it to another level that they usually don't. Play beyond their means, so to speak, that they go ahead and try to stop their top players. And that's the way they're going to have to stop this game. Josh Norman's going to probably, for the most part, lock down Dez Bryant. He hasn't played in a few weeks, but I think Josh Norman he's a competitive player. He's a professional. I think he's going to come out, and I'm pretty sure he's been working all week, practicing in this game, especially on Terrell Pryor. He has the size. I'm pretty sure he's been covering Terrell in practice to try to make sure, he knows how to cover wide receiver like Dez Bryant. Now, Dez, on the other hand, he hasn't played well. He hasn't had a 100-yard receiving game all season this year. Maybe at least one touchdown again, I think -1, and I think in the Rams game. But he hasn't been an impact player that you thought he would be this season. And I still think it has to do with that foot. Last 2 years, he's been dealing with a serious foot injury. The foot injury, he did try to come back a little bit too early and ended up re-injuring himself. And then last year he dealt with it too. Now he's been healthy for this season, but I think he's been taking it easy when it comes to playing his position. He hasn't been doing a lot of jump balls. He's been, trying to position himself while he's still on the ground and maybe leap a little bit, but not to the extent where he would jump off the ground like he was dunking a basketball and snatch the ball out of the air. He hasn't been doing that. So I think that's going to come into play in this game against the Redskins, where Josh Norman may be able to out-jump him for some of those contested balls. So we'll see how healthy Dez Bryant is in this game, how high he jumps, because this is going to be one of those one-on-one matchups I think are going to happen, and Dak's going to try to get him the ball. This is going to be one of those games where the team that gets up first is going to have the advantage. Just because if you look at the rankings for these teams, they're pretty even across the board, kind of Jekyll and Hyde kind of thing. One team does one thing better than the other. So it's going to be kind of like if they were together, it'd be the perfect team. But it's going to be like who can outdo the other one. So I said the rushing offense for the Cowboys is second in the league against the rushing defense of the Redskins, which is 14th. Again, 14th isn't terrible, but when you're going against one of the top two rushing offenses in the league, you're going to have to play as a top 5 defense that week in order to stop Ezekiel Elliott in that rushing attack. So when it comes down to, I think, the quarterback play, Dak has been extremely impressive, I think, all season. He's been really good getting the ball to Jason Witten. You haven't seen him get the ball much to Cole Beasley and those guys. He did for the beginning. It looks like Terrence Williams. But he hasn't been spraying the ball out too much to those guys, especially since Zeke's been back to be able to run the football. And I think you're going to see the same thing in this game. You're going to see I think you're going to try to – I think they're – with Dak being covered by with Dez being covered by Josh Norman, you're definitely going to see Cole Beasley, I think Terrence Williams get more involved in this game with those underneath routes. And then, I think Brilliant will be covering Terrence Williams. So it probably will be Cole Beasley getting the ball across the middle. And seeing him be able to get an open field, to see him getting stretching plays out, that will be key, I think, in this game as well for the Cowboys. If Cole Beasley can become an X factor in this game, that's where, no Zeke is going to be there and Dak is going to X factor. But there's always that third guy that steps up for the team that starts making plays that kind of makes the defense stay honest. And, then they have to start watching out for him as well. They kind of leave other guys get open. So I think Cole Beasley will definitely have an impact in this game as well. Now, when I look at the Redskins offense, besides Terrell Pryor, what I just mentioned, that he has to step up and have a big game. I definitely look at Chris Thompson. I think the Redskins are going to try to do more in this game with getting him the ball in space. So what I mean by that is he's not a running back, I believe, that is good between the tackles, but I do believe he's great when he can get outside and he can catch the ball and do those little quick pitches and little dump off passes to the side and swing passes and things like that. He can go ahead and get in open space. So I think that's going to be key for him to get into space so that he can make some plays. He showed it last week. And definitely in the Raiders game that he's a dangerous player when he gets in space. I think the Redskins need to utilize that and stop trying to run him in between the tackles. You got Fat Rob for that. I think they'll go ahead and just do that and leave Chris Thompson out there as well. And I wouldn't be surprised if they put both of them out there at the same time to kind of confuse the defense to see where they're going in certain plays. The Redskins also, when it comes to their losses, have given up 31 points. So both of these teams in their losses have given up over 30 points in these games. So, this is one of those teams. This is one of those games where, like I said, I think if you see a team get up early in the first half, it's maybe not one of those games where teams end up catching up. These aren't these kind of teams that play from behind. So the team that scores often early. So I think the team that gets up by 14 or gets up by 17, I think within the first half, will probably win this football game. Like I said, these teams don't play well from behind usually. So when you're giving up 30 points and even in your losses, I think you're going to be able. You think you're not going to play too well from behind. So I think it's going to be one of those games where the teams that get up first are going to probably win this football game. Now the Redskins are coming off a bye and a bad loss to the Eagles. The Eagles have the best record right now in football, outright lead for the NFC East with a 6-1 record. And now the Redskins and Cowboys sit at 3-3. So you're going to see a pivotal game right now. This is basically for right now as it stands, unless the Eagles just take a nosedive for the rest of the season, a battle for a wild card spot in the playoffs. So you're going to definitely. This is a big game for both teams. Another note I think I want to mention here. Let's see. The Cowboys are coming off a blowout win against the 49ers. Again, the 49ers are 0-7. It's a winless team. They're expected to blow those guys out. So they're going to come up with a little bit more, I think, confidence in this game, mainly because they worked. Everything worked on all cylinders. Defense played well. I think they shut them out. Or they put up 3 points. I can't remember what it was, but I don't think they didn't score a lot. And Dez, I think, caught a touchdown. Zeke had a phenomenal game. He's running all over those guys, catching the ball, running the football from line of scrimmage. He is playing phenomenal. So I think he's got a lot of confidence coming into this game. So that's going to be key for the Redskins. I think the Cowboys in this game are going to definitely strike early when it comes to making big plays. So I think they're going to try to make big plays early in this game. You're going to see from the Cowboys with Zeke and Dez. And I think it's going to be very important the Redskins to shut that down early. They're going to need to make the Cowboys start to rethink their strategy early on in the football game, because if the Cowboys are allowed to go out there with Zeke and Dez and get big plays, it's not going to be a very long day for the Redskins, and this game will be over more quickly than anybody has anticipated. So I think going into this game, like I said, it's pretty balanced when it comes to Cowboys offense versus Redskins defense and Redskins offense versus Cowboys defense. It's pretty balanced on. I think both offenses will have success in this game. It's going to come down to which defense can make those big stops and allow for their offense to make big plays. And I think that's going to be key for this game. So I'll do my prediction to end this video. So I think for this game, I believe, based on what I've seen this season, I'm going to have to go with the Cowboys in this game. I think they're going to win. It's going to be a high-scoring. I think it's going to be a fairly high-scoring game. I think it's going to be, I'll say 35-31 Cowboys. I think they're just going to go shoot out, that kind of game, 35-31. And I think it ends with a Dez touchdown. I think the Redskins are up early. I think the Redskins are up late in the game, and then Cowboys get a last-minute touchdown to Dez Bryant. Yeah, I just think that Dez, when it comes to wide receiver cores, that they have their guy. He has made plays this season. Like I say, he hasn't had a 100-yard game this season, but he's been more explosive, I think, more consistent, at least, than that Terrell Pryor has. Terrell Pryor dropped the ball way too much. Now, I said Terrell Pryor makes some plays this game that could change, but I do think it's going to be fairly close, but fairly high scoring. Going to Cowboys on this one, 35-31. I know Redskins fans and some friends of mine who are Redskins fans may hate me for that, but this is a rivalry game. I do expect to have some fireworks in this game. May get a little heated, but 35-31 Cowboys. So if you can, please subscribe to my video, Ravenclaw Sports, for more of these. I'll try to do some more Redskins and Cowboys videos probably throughout the year. I'm going to try to expand my view instead of just the Ravens. And since I live in the DMV area and I do follow all three of these teams, I'll start doing more Redskins and Cowboys videos. But thanks for watching. And like I said, please subscribe. And I will see you guys. I'll probably do since the Ravens played this Thursday, I'll probably do a special live from the hammock, but it'll be the Cowboys Redskins, and I give my little spiel during that halftime and post game as well. So I'll see you guys later. Peace.